Are you trying to get into collecting Pokemon cards in 2025, or are you even trying to start a trading card business? Well, today I'm going to take a deep dive into how I've been approaching some of those things, some of the information that I've been gleaning over the last month of trying to re-engage this hobby after collecting throughout the early 2000s. Now, Pokemon has been in and out of the news probably for the last decade, especially when the COVID-19 pandemic era really brought back a lot of the hype around vintage cards. Now, recently, it's been making quite another run through media outlets with stories of Pokemon cards even outperforming the S&P 500. So if you've really been wondering, how do I get involved in Pokemon in 2025, either collecting or starting a trading card business, going to card shows, or anything else, subscribe today to follow along as we're going to dive into some of my experiences over the last month of trying to become a Pokemon content creator and see what this is going to look like my journey over time. Welcome to Next Gen Collecting. My name is Elliot, and I've collected Pokemon cards since my childhood. Now, in today's video, we're going to cover a handful of things. First off, one, why am I getting involved in this? We'll dive a little bit more into my personal background and share some of the research that I've done that said, hey, is maybe now a good time or a bad time for depending on your situation. Two, we're going to dive into how I started my online business. I found that many of the videos that are posting success of their growth recently have either been things that maybe I don't follow along or agree with ethically perhaps, or they don't follow those breakdown steps that really walk you through how do I do those different things. There's a lot of good information out there and folks should celebrate their success, but a little bit more of the how-to guide can oftentimes be helpful in this case. And lastly, we're gonna go through how my content creation has been going over the last month, what are some of my goals for the next month, and how I'm gonna approach the combination of both content and business creation with some of the downtime that I have. Now, Pokemon was, a huge part of my childhood, as I'm sure a lot of the folks who are re-engaging with the hobby today. From watching the shows, the movies, getting those promo cards for the movies, and collecting cards so you could either trade or battle with your friends as you were growing up. It was everywhere. And over the years, I pursued other hobbies, but I've been finding that Pokemon has been one that can be both active and passive, that a lot of folks are treating as something you can put a lot of time into, or very little and still get a lot of enjoyment out of, which has been exciting for me. Getting back into this, I wanted to set a few goals for myself, as it's pretty nebulous thinking about what is Pokemon collecting. And so setting a few clear goals will guide me along my path through both content creation and where I'm deciding to spend some of my money. Those three things are going to be completing a first edition fossil set. Now, if you are interested in learning a little more about that, I actually just posted my vintage binder collection that I had from my childhood that goes through a lot of those cards and how close I am on that journey. The second piece I want to do is master set Metagross. Now that is going to be collecting every Metagross card out there. We'll start with some English versions, and if we can get into Japanese, we'll go there. There's some heavy hitters in there with that Metagross Gold Star, which, oh my gosh, some of those cards are running for 8, 9, 10K today, which is crazy. And my final goal that I'm looking for is to build a self-sustaining hobby that I can share with my family. Something that is going to continue to create part of my identity that I can share with my friends and family. First off, collecting today in 2025 is a little more difficult than it was back in the early 2000s. Cards are difficult to get a hold of. Product in general is difficult. Now, growing up, I would have gone to a Target, to a Walmart, maybe even a Costco to find Pokemon cards. But today you'll find that there are folks scalping these products and then selling them online for 2 to 3 times the price. And I had to ask myself, how am I going to be getting product at MSRP to avoid paying that scalper pricing and hopefully start to break some of that cycle? My main goal has been trying to break down how can I get product at MSRP and avoid paying those scalper prices that are perpetuating some of that cycle. My goal is build up that collection over time. Use some of that for some of the things we're going to be talking about today in the video, and then also hold on to it for a little bit to see if I can continue pulling the excitement from those packs that will become older as time goes on. To keep building that capital and keep momentum with my personal collection growth, I actually made the decision to start a trading card business online. My goal is going to be to expand that over time and track the performance across social media so folks like yourself at home can follow along my journey, learn from my mistakes, and hopefully continue to improve the community for the better. That sparked the creation of Next Gen Collecting for the next generation of my family. Now, we touched a little bit on why maybe I've gotten into collecting again, specifically with Pokemon cards, But let's spend a little bit of time talking about how I've started now a trading card business. Now, a lot of you who are maybe thinking to yourselves, I have a lot of cards, but maybe I'm not sure where to start. Or I can start to list, but what are the individual steps that I need to take to make sure that I am getting things safely out to customers? In 2025, there are a ton of different ways to sell Pokemon cards online. Now, if you yourself have tried selling Pokemon cards and have good lessons learned that you'd like to share, post them down in the comments. I'd love to make sure that we're sharing and building that community where we're learning from each other over time. So if you've looked at selling Pokemon cards, you've probably seen things like Whatnot, TCGPlayer, eBay, TikTok, or even Facebook Marketplace. And a lot of these are good, but I'm gonna break down for each of these different models why I maybe chose to go with or I didn't go with some of those models based on what I believe in creating a business. Many of the accounts that I have seen start Pokemon businesses through similar journeys like this on YouTube have started out pretty often on Whatnot or TikTok Live. Now, if you're not familiar with these platforms, it actually allows creators to stream and sell product. That can be individual cards, slabs or graded cards, or even sealed product, and then viewers can bid on that live. This moves pretty quickly, and you'll commonly see bids of $50 to $100 or more going in 5 to 10-second increments. It moves quickly, and a lot of stuff happens fast. If these bids are going in for $40, $50, $60, $70, $80, and you as a buyer are receiving a single Japanese pack, yes, you of your own free will went in and bid on that. However, that business model, knowing that you have such a clear divide between winners and losers, kind of put this more into almost like a casino category. While I've seen countless businesses scale and grow incredibly quickly due to the rapid growth and kind of high price tags on Whatnot, I personally did not believe that this is a way I wanted to build my community or my business. Something that's rooted on kind of more fair and equitable solutions, ideally, is how we get more folks involved into collecting, and then other people get the cards they actually want. So I decided to avoid Whatnot. Similar to that auction format is eBay. I'm sure many folks are very familiar with the eBay format, bidding auction-wise on specific cards. Now, oftentimes eBay is where folks are selling a lot of their higher end cards. Now, very recently, if you've been following along, there has been some huge cards that have sold. Some listings for $3, $4 million. I even saw a Skyridge first edition Charizard sell for $300,000, I think last night or the night before. There's a lot of money moving in Pokemon today. And it's interesting, it's also a little scary, but maybe eBay is that opportunity to figure out what is the market or what is the greater community actually paying for cards. Other methods like Facebook Marketplace are maybe a little bit more local focused. Yes, you can do that nationally and you can ship pieces, but it doesn't really have the discoverability or the flexibility that I was looking for. So for next gen collecting, my primary platform is actually going to be TCGPlayer. Now, if you're unfamiliar with TCGPlayer, it is essentially the trading card game marketplace. You can, as a seller, post your cards and have the general market or the public and buyers see if they're interested in buying your card for a certain price. TCGPlayer also has a pretty rigid structure in terms of conditioning. So you're not maybe getting tricked in an eBay thinking that a card is listed as near mint when it is very much not. You do have known criteria that every buyer needs to adhere to. So you understand, if I am buying a near mint card, I am getting something with maybe one small defect. If I'm buying an LP, maybe that's 3 to 5 or more, etc. If I'm getting a damaged card, I know what I'm buying. Now, while I was excited to learn a little bit more about TCGPlayer and the kind of marketplace style that was here, I also had to ask myself, this seems pretty straightforward. I'm posting, someone's gonna buy it. But what a lot of folks don't share is that journey on what happens after someone buys it. How do you actually get the card to them? And so today I wanted to make sure we spend some time thinking about what are all of those steps that happen after a purchase is made. What envelopes do I use? How do I pay for postage? There's something called non-machinable. What is that? What carrier do I send this through? USPS, UPS, FedEx? What materials do I need to buy and account for in my cost over time? How do I weigh these? How do I print my own labels at home? What does TCGPlayer take for fees? So from my research over the last few weeks, here is the process that I've settled on. Now, for the most part, a lot of my cards are around that $10 to $20 mark raw. So I'm gonna be shipping a majority of those in a PWE or a plain white envelope. Now, there are a ton of different styles and sizes, but I have found pretty standardly that there is a 3 5/8 to 6.5-inch envelope. This is perfectly sized for cards, and it's going to be something that allows you to put them on a top loader and avoid them to slide around as the post office is shipping them out. For more expensive cards, I'll use things like bubble mailers, 6x9 size, or if they're even more valuable or sealed product, I'm shipping those out in cardboard boxes wrapped in bubble wrap or with packing peanuts as well. Now, after that card is secured in the envelope, I have to think about how is this getting paid in terms of shipping. Now, if you have gone down to the post office, you go to your USPS, your UPS, or FedEx, you can go there, drop off a letter, and pay for postage there. What I've actually found is that there are two different kinds of postage. There's retail, going down to the store and paying for it immediately. But there are also commercial rates. And there are actually companies that you as a card business can utilize for free or for a subscription to get discounted rates on your shipping. Those companies are Pitney Bowes and Pirate Ship, two different organizations that have commercial rates with a lot of those major US postal carriers, which means that instead of paying retail rates, you actually get that reduced rate. And some of them advertise that's up to a 90% discount, which is crazy to think. So knowing that there are multiple companies where I can get discounted commercial rates for shipping, my goal is to keep my shipping rates and my material cost as low as possible. So I am selling buyers a card at a good rate that is not cutting into my profit margins as well. You want to make sure that you are creating profit, but you also want to make sure you're not ripping anyone off on either side. So after I understand what envelopes am I using, how am I shipping these, through what service or what organization, I need to make sure that I'm actually weighing this. I'll measure out my envelope and I'll weigh it on a scale to determine the weight to appropriately pay for postage. After I've weighed all that out, I'll enter my information either on those two options for commercial shipping, and I'm actually going to print out my label. Now, you could print out labels on a normal inkjet printer, like on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Afterwards, I would tape that onto my bubble mailer or my plain white envelope. However, with the goal of expanding this business and making sure that it's automated a little bit better, I actually spent a little bit of additional time and investment and bought a thermal printer. Now, as soon as I get an order, I will have the address, the weight of the card, the envelope. I enter that into my commercial postage, and I actually send that directly over to my thermal printer to print out via Bluetooth or a USB connection. So immediately I have that thermal printed on the sticker, and I can just stick it right onto the plain white envelope or onto the bubble mailer. Ideally, that reduces in cost for a lot of the ink or other pieces that come with a normal inkjet printer. Now that I've packaged, weighed, and paid for postage, I can finally send that product or that card out to the buyer. Now, the other thing I need to keep in mind is that TCGPlayer generally has around a 10% marketplace fee. I think it's maybe a little bit over that, but that's something that I take into account as my understanding when I'm thinking about what do I need to build, what do I need to price a card for profits, knowing that a percentage of that is taken from the marketplace. So all in all, if I am selling a $10 card, maybe I got it for $5 or $6, I'm paying around $1.50 in materials and postage, depending on weight. I'll pay maybe $1 or so in marketplace fees. And all in all, that probably adds up to around $2.50 to $3 in materials and fees. Again, if I sell that card for 10, we're down to 7 all of a sudden in terms of overall for the card. And then if I bought that card for 5 or 6, my actual profit margins are only around $1 or $2. So this becomes really important as I think about what cards am I purchasing to sell? Am I selling based on my collection? Or how do I think about running this business from that profit margin perspective? So now we've covered why I'm getting into this, how I've created a business, and the questions that I asked myself as I was very first starting out. The other thing that I want to talk about is how I've started to track my progress through social media. Accountability is a big part here, and I want to think about how am I building content creation and building my brand over time. Now today you're probably watching this on YouTube, which has been the main hub for Next Gen Collecting so far. But I do cross posts on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Now I'm learning as I continue to go what works for each of these platforms. So let me know if you have any feedback or thoughts on content you specifically want to see. The links to all of those social platforms are down below in the description. And if you have learned something today or you want to follow along on my journey, please subscribe or follow along on some of those platforms. The goal here is starting with Tuesday shorts, and Friday long form videos, which we've done over the last 4 weeks. Now, how has it been going so far? Our first few YouTube videos and shorts actually performed a lot better than what I was expecting. In our first month, we gained 7 subscribers. And while that may not seem like a lot, thank you to you 7 who are continuing to support and push the content that I'm trying to build. It's been great to see friends and newcomers interested in coming back to see what we're doing over time. In terms of the specific views, our first long form video received over 100 views in our first 24 to 48 hours. This was really exciting to me as I was expecting 5 to 10. And our shorts were even more exciting. I know these are a little bit quicker. Folks generally play to the attention span that they have, but our first 2 shorts accumulated a little over 2,000 views within the first 48 hours. So exciting growth to see it quickly, but it's something where we need to keep building on top of. Videos that I've posted since, so in weeks 2, 3, and maybe up to 4, have been a little bit slower. Looking at average view duration, I'm seeing that I'm not retaining viewers throughout the entire thing. That tells me a couple things. I need to keep my overall retention rate a little bit higher, aiming for maybe 70 to 80% of time or duration viewed. That needs to be messing around with editing styles for attention spans, or just figuring out if I've been making content that people enjoy watching. So those are things that I'll be evaluating over the next month. So moving forward in month 2, our goal is going to be building out that TCGPlayer shop and making sure that's live and we're starting to sell cards. I outlined a little bit of my process of what I'm looking to do right now, but we need to see if it works and how well it's working with volume. So ideally by the end of October, I'm aiming for around 10 card sales on TCGPlayer. That means to supply my shop, I'm gonna be looking for bulk deals to purchase on Facebook Marketplace, online from viewers or folks on Twitter. And I'm also gonna be going to those card shows to buy more singles. On top of that, the name of the game is consistency. We're aiming for shorts on Tuesdays, long form on Fridays, with the goal that we continue that throughout October to see if there's any trends we can better glean to understand where should I be putting my effort moving forward. The last month has been super fun building a lot of this content, going to the card shows and building my community online and in person. And my goal is that I continue doing that over the next month. So if you are interested in following along, hopefully learning from some tips and tricks or best practices that I've picked up along the way, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell to learn what I'm doing day to day, and let me know down in the comments what you want to see. Is it unboxings? Is it rare vintage cards grading? Is it figuring out how to navigate the space as a whole or understanding what market trends look like? I'm interested to hear what you all have to say. Let me know down in the comments and we'll catch you in the next one.